Good morning. Today is the 21st of April 2023. Welcome to Reason Speak with Sydney Winston. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to look at news sources. Specifically news sources from Kyiv, from Ukraine, from Russia, from North Korea, and we're going to talk about the Sudan situation, and then we're going to also have a look at some Bill Nye. Hopefully that'll be enough to entertain you guys for a while. So the whole situation in Europe is baffling, to say the least, because you get opposing views and opposing statistics from both sides, and they both claim that they're on the upswing. You know, Ukraine claims Russians are losing hundreds of thousands of soldiers and equipment, and Russia claims that Ukraine is losing equipment, and Ukraine says that Russia is losing equipment, and Russia says that Ukraine is losing thousands of soldiers to the meat grinder. I don't know. I have no idea who to believe. None. If you can help me out, just put it in the chat there. If you are watching, just say hi in the chat so I can acknowledge you and recognize you. And thank you for joining me. So let's not mess around too much. Why don't we first go to the Sudan situation. Now, what I'm going to do is everything about Russia, everything about Sudan, everything about North Korea, blah, 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 blah. We usually source that news, or that news is sourced and then broadcast to us, the public, from outside those particular countries. So what I'm going to do today is have a look at news sources from inside those countries. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go to the Sudan Tribune, like this. Sudan Tribune, which is printed in Sudan. And there's some kind of a civil war between the army and another branch of the army. So let's see what's going on. This is the headline for the day. Burhan says no truth with Hemeti as long as his forces are in Sudanese capital. Burhan, I've no idea who that is. Hemeti, I also have no idea who that is. So let's see if we can read on. Okay, it looks like this picture here, this one here, shows El Burhan on the left and Hemeti on the right. These are the ones who are fighting. So, as of April the 20th, 2023, reporting from Khartoum, the head of the Transitional Sovereign Council and Sudanese Army, Commander-in-Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, stated on Thursday that he would not agree to a truce with the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, commander, as long as their forces are present in residential areas and interfering with the functioning of public facilities in Khartoum. I'm going to take a break now and And I see. I see that. What the bloody hell? What the bloody hell? Okay. Hold on a minute. Why can't I not see anything? Well, while I get that sorted out, let me carry on reading. International pressure is mounting on the Sudanese army to accept a ceasefire to allow civilians to receive supplies and for the sick and wounded to be transported to hospitals or out of combat zones. I'm still... Oh. I'm still trying to figure out why I can't bring up the chat. Oh, no wonder. No wonder. All right. Operator error. And I'm the operator. Sorry about that, babies. Okay. I know this is kind of crude, but I'm going to bring it up there anyway. Hello. Oh, shit. And of course I'm spilling my coffee all over the place because I'm holding it. It's going to be one of those days. All right. So, hello to Rosie Rose. Hey, ya. Let's see what you say. To be fair, propaganda claiming the other side is losing is nothing new. That is correct. That is correct. The results on the ground are what is going to decide the outcome. So let's go back here. So international pressure is mounting on the Sudanese army to accept a ceasefire to allow civilians to receive supplies and for the sick and wounded to be transported to hospitals or out of combat zones. During an interview with Al Jazeera TV on the eve of Eid al-Fitr, Burhan explained that the Sudanese army cannot accept a truce that does not serve its intended purpose of providing services and transporting the injured and sick to hospitals. He stated that the RSF had seized 5 hospitals in the capital to treat their wounded members and taken control of various public facilities and police stations, using them as headquarters for their forces. He said that the rapid support forces who are deployed in the streets of the neighborhoods established checkpoints for civilians, verifying the identities and extorting them and confiscating their belongings, as well as dealing with people based on their ethnic and regional backgrounds. Sorry about that. I didn't have it on the screen because I'm a one-man show, folks. If we want there to be genuine truce, let's open the corridors and leave civilians free movement. How do you talk about a truce when you set up checkpoints, search civilians, and occupy public service buildings and state facilities? You can't talk about a truce under these circumstances. It's colonialism, not a truce, he questioned. However, you said that dialogue with the RSF is attainable only if its forces withdraw from Khartoum. He emphasized that the army does not intend to engage in combat in residential neighborhoods. Concerning the conditions of dialogue with his rival, he said negotiations will not be with RSF leaders but with parties that want dialogue from within the RSF. And he died. That's what it says. I don't know what that means. He said that the Sudanese army maintains control over all parts of the country, and the presence of Hemeti's forces is limited to the Sudanese capital. The confrontation between the national army and the paramilitary forces have entered the 6th day, and the battles have escalated around the general command, areas close to Khartoum airport, and the outskirts of Omdurman. Regarding Hemeti's continuation as a deputy head of the Sovereign Council, Al-Burhan stated that measures would be taken in due course against Hemeti without further details. During the interview, the commander-in-chief of the army accused the RSF leader of attempting to seize the Sudanese state and use the framework agreement to their advantage. He also accused the militia leadership of seeking to govern Sudan by force, and he vowed not to allow it. He reiterated that the state cannot be handed over to an individual that acts solely for his own interest. Al-Burhan recounted, "One day, I informed Hemeti that if we are the cause of Sudan's problems, we should step down together, but he refused, telling me, 'You could leave alone, but I would stay.'" So it looks to me like the problems in Sudan are internal political. I doubt that they'll spill over the borders anywhere else, and I'm sure that we'll see this die down in due course. So there you go. So that was Sudan. Next, I'm going to go to Pyongyang. We're going to get to Europe in the... we'll get to Europe. After this. I hear meowing in my ear, and I believe there's a cat at my door. You hear that? I have to let him out. So just give me a moment. I'll be right back. Hold on a sec. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I am back. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at, what did I say? We're going to go to North Korea and look at the Pyongyang Times. See? Published in North Korea. If you want to get North Korean news, get it from sources inside North Korea. Government or not, doesn't matter. Right, so let's see what's interesting here. Politics. Okay, so there's the Pyongyang Times. Let's just have a look at this front page here. See how interesting we are. Okay, so Kim Jong-un sends congratulatory message to Cuban president. Boring. Look, there's a General Secretary Kim Jong-un's revolutionary activities. Alright, so a revolutionary activity, as I just mentioned, is a congratulatory message to Cuban president. Another revolutionary activity is the General Secretary Kim Jong-un inspects nada. Nothing. Nothing to inspect here. Another revolutionary activity. Kim Jong-un sends congratulatory message to Syrian president. You know, all the bigwigs in the world. Another Kim Jong-un revolutionary activity is inauguration ceremony of first state. Oh, shit. Oops. Sorry about that. Inauguration ceremony of first stage 10,000 flats in Hwasong area held with splendor. And then another revolutionary activity of Kim Jong-un is the General Secretary Kim Jong-un watches sports games. Revolutionary activities at their finest. Let's go down here because none of that's really interesting. We got some commentary here. Japan's missile deployment to invite disaster. Father of the people. International human rights judge to sit in the dock. Country's strategic position strengthened rapidly. Okay, well, let's read this one. Country's strategic position strengthened rapidly. I don't really believe it. 11 years have passed since the respected comrade Kim Jong-un was elected to the top posts of the Workers' Party of Korea and the DPRK. Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Ha ha ha, what a joke. In those days, he performed immortal exploits by further developing the WPK into a motherly party which takes responsibility for the destiny of people and remarkably enhancing the DPRK's overall power and strategic position. I don't know about that. How's my audio? Is it loud enough or not loud enough? I guess I should do it that way because I'm not quite. There we go. I'll just leave it there. If it's too loud, let me know. As his first revolutionary activity of 2012, this is Kim Jong-un, after the sudden loss of Chairman Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un visited the Seoul Ryukyong Sioux Guards 105th Tank Division associated with the leadership exploits of the chairman, whatever that means. Maybe that's too. It was a historic inspection reflecting his noble aspirations to faithfully carry forward and accomplish the revolutionary cause of Juche, pioneered and triumphantly advanced by President Kim Il-sung and the chairman on the strength of invincible arms in the face of heinous moves of hostile forces to check the advance of socialist Korea. Oof, they're in trouble. Lots of pressure, outside pressure on this country, they say. Afterwards, he put forward modeling the entire army on Kim Il-sungism, Kim Jong-ilism is the general objective of army building. What the fuck? Let's find out more. The line of simultaneously pushing economic construction and the upbuilding of the nuclear forces was set forth at the March 2013 plenary meeting of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, held under the guidance of General Secretary Kim Jong-un. The historic cause of building up the nuclear forces was successfully accomplished some years after that. So it's got like a little history lesson here. In 2017, the DPRK succeeded in the test fire of surface-to-surface, intermediate, and long-range strategic ballistic missile Axioms 2, the static firing test of newly developed high-thrust motor, the test fire of excuse me, the test fire of intercontinental ballistic missile Hwasong 14, and the test of H-bomb for ICBM in succession. In November that year, it successfully launched new type ICBM Hwasong 15. The decision was surprising, and yet it was more so that such a huge historic task was carried out in less than 5 years. However, few knew how much the General Secretary devoted himself to the achievements in such a short period. Hostile forces persisted in sophistry and obstructive moves to check the simultaneous push path, and went so far as to inhibit regular economic exchanges and financial transactions, and put on the list of items under sanctions even ordinary foodstuffs, sports apparatuses, and children's toys. At a crossroads to decide whether they would give up and become slaves of the imperialists, or overcome difficulties and remain stately, independent gods, he believed in the people and more vigorously pushed ahead with the upbuilding of the self-reliant defense capability. Wherever the test was conducted, Whenever the test was conducted to develop new weapons, he would always be at the test site. This is about the Kim that's in charge right now. He gave scientists and technicians strength and courage for developing a completely new Korean-style weapon system without copying others. Thanks to his painstaking efforts, advanced Juche-based weapons were developed in succession, including intercontinental ballistic missile, hypersonic missile, long-range cruise missile, new type submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and mobile railway missile. The DPRK rapidly emerged as a strategic state, making a hole in hostile forces campaign of pressure against the country. After that, Kim Jong-un declared that in the present world, where forces collide fiercely with another, a nation's dignity and sovereignty and reliable, genuine peace are guaranteed by powerful self-defense capability that can overpower any enemy, and that the country should continuously grow stronger. The important weapon test and firing drills for strategic aim the country conducted in late March to cope with reckless and irresponsible war games of hostile forces against it testified to its constantly growing strength and showed what guarantees peace. Okay. I'm going to say something about that. Okay, so growing strength and shows what guarantees peace. You heard that, right? Okay, now listen to this. I'm going to read this again, because we're talking about growing strength and they showed what guarantees peace. Okay, so we've got intercontinental ballistic missiles, guarantee peace. We have hypersonic missile, guarantee peace. We've got long-range cruise missile, to guarantee peace. And we have a new type submarine-launched ballistic missile, guarantees peace, and mobile railway missile. to guarantee peace. All right, let's go and look at the state of the country. Because if I'm not mistaken, the people are starving, and the world is sending food aid. Let's see if they talk about it here anywhere. Soccer, flowers, sports, flowers, art. Where is, let's see, what am I looking for? Economy? Is that the economy? No. There's the economy. Oh, look. Kelp harvest in full swing. Hundreds of tons of kelp being harvested every day, blah, 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 blah. Kelp, what the hell is... Obviously, it's from the sea. It looks like seaweed. It doesn't look very appetizing, does it? But I'm not interested in what they're producing. I'm interested in what let's see, politics. Really, really nothing. Tourism. Well, not a hell of a lot on tourism. Economy, there we go. Oh, we're back. Well, there you go. From inside the Pyongyang Times, the main thing is that Kim Jong-un's revolutionary activities take front page headlines. And as you can see, they're just... What's nada? General Secretary Kim Jong-un inspects nada. I love that. He inspects nothing. I'm not even going to read it because it's obviously bullshit. Okay. I think we're done with North Korea. Okay, so what do we have next? Well, we got the war in Europe. We got Russia, we got Ukraine. They're both making the same claims regarding victories, loss of life on the other side. Who is telling the truth? I think we'll first go to... I'll show you this. This is TASS, which is the accredited, or the only, or one of the Russian, one of the Russian regime's news outlets is TASS, the Russian news agency. So I just want to show you what they said. This is their big news. Russian assault teams liberate 3 areas in Artyomovsk. Top brass reports. What the hell is... Oh, Jesus Christ, I never bring these in. What the hell is Artyomovsk? Well, let's see what the subheadline is. It is reported that Russian forces destroyed an ammunition depot of the Ukrainian army in the Kherson area over the past day. Okay, what I'm going to do, that was from April the 19th, 2 days ago. Let me see if I can find what's the latest. Alright, so Russian headlines. EU trains 16,000 Ukrainian soldiers, delivers over 600 million euro of ammunition. This is coming out of Russia. Main story. I love the main story. Military operation in Ukraine. Good. Let's find out more about it. Any questions? Stick them in the live chat or join in the room. Okay, what we got here? Missile arms race growing out of control. 8 Ukrainian soldiers surrender to Russian forces. Army officer in Ukraine faces charges for failed recruitment of Russian pilots. Russian forces destroyed 2 Ukrainian howitzers in Kherson area. Here's a Russian. Here we go. 4 hours ago, Russian assault teams continue battles in western Artyomovsk. So, what the fuck is Artyomovsk? Well, I looked it up on Google Maps, and this is what Artyomovsk is. It's the Russian word for Bakhmut. There you go. That's Artyomovsk in what they're referring to. It's Bakhmut, and they took some area out of the Ukrainians' control and control it themselves. Now, Bakhmut. It's just, let me just zoom out here and have a look at all of the whole theater. So what they're talking about is this small little, look at the size of Ukraine. Just look at the size of it. What's that? Zhukovka. I don't know what that is. And there, in our little spot of Bakhmut, is what the Russian newspapers are commenting about. Okay? So, airborne forces are thwarting the enemy's attempts to counter-attack on the flanks and are rendering support to the assault teams in capturing the city. Defense Ministry spokesman Lieutenant General Igor Konashenkov reported. Okay, so Moscow, April 21, 2023. Russian assault teams continued active operations for destroying enemy forces in the western part of Artyomovsk in the Donetsk area over the past day during the special military operation in Ukraine. Defense Ministry spokesman Lieutenant General Igor Konashenkov reported on Friday. In the Donetsk direction, the assault teams continued battles in the western part of the city of Artyomovsk. Airborne forces are thwarting the enemy's attempts to counterattack on the flanks and are rendering support to the assault teams in capturing the city, the spokesman said. During the last 24-hour period, operational, tactical, and army aviation aircraft and artillery of the Russian battle group South struck the Ukrainian army units in areas near the settlements of Krasnoye, Chasov Nyar, and Predtekino in the Donetsk People's Republic, the general said. Aircraft flew 8 sorties to support the assault teams. Artillery of the Southern Battle Group accomplished 69 firing objectives. Russian news has mentioned Sudan. Russian news, Bank of Russia increases key rate by 10.5 points to 20%. Wow, 20%. Lavrov tells Cavusoglu Moscow is ready for settlement of Ukraine crisis. That's from the 26th of February. I think he's changed his mind since then. Well, that's going back too far for news. Let me get back to the top here. All right, so the big news is that Bakhmut, according to the Russians, Bakhmut is very important. Here's something interesting. Kiev's extremism crimes confirm that special operation must go on, according to the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The ministry drew attention to the latest portion of extremist statements by some Ukrainian officials, in particular Mikhail Podolyak, who openly stated that today the Kiev regime has a unique chance to quickly and painlessly physically mop up a large number of pro-Russian people. Again, Moscow, April 21, 2023. The Kiev regime's extremist statements. So firstly, listen to this. Russia invades Ukraine. Given that we all know that Ukraine has every right to essentially counterattack and, in effect, insist on an unconditional surrender by Russia. Unconditional. I go back to Winston Churchill's theory of war. It's better not to have war. It's better to negotiate. But if you're going to have war, then war must be won. And you don't win a war, especially like this one. Just like the Hitler times. You don't win that war through negotiation. You win it by overwhelming force and unconditional surrender. And that, in my view, is what should happen in this case. I think Russia should be humiliated into accepting an unconditional surrender. And quite possibly, if this extends, if this war carries on the way it's going, there will be no choice but to have a Western NATO focus on defeating Russia. Right now, it's all in Ukraine, and la-di-da, doesn't look like a world war. But it's coming to that. It's absolutely coming to that, because we know that Russia doesn't want to just denazify Ukraine. I also know that Russia has not provided any evidence that Ukrainians are Nazis, although they do have something, and I will delve into that in a future episode. I already have that queued up, but not today. I don't think Russia has any right to complain about what Ukraine is doing in their war effort. Russia complains when Ukraine drops mortars and whatnot on Russian soil, on the Russian side of the Donetsk border. Russia's been dropping missiles and killing Ukrainians for the last, since 2014, almost 10 years now, 9 years. And I think that's unacceptable. I don't understand how the world is turning its back essentially on Ukraine, because this is what happens. The world is turning its back on Ukraine by not providing immense amounts of weapons, ammunition, training, soldiers, everything to destroy the Russian menace right now, today. They can do it, but Biden, in my view, is the leader of the appeasers. Biden is a failed, he's worse than Neville Chamberlain. He's bumbling, he's a doddering, past his prime president. Biden is going to ensure that the United States position of prestige in the world has dropped tremendously. No one's scared of the United States. If Russia was scared of the United States, it wouldn't have gone into Ukraine because the United States would have just said, all right, off we go to war against Russia. And none of this bullshit over the last year would have ensued. As soon as Russia invaded on February the 24th of 2022, the whole world should have gone World War III against Russia. That would have ended it with way less carnage, death, destruction, and also what it entails for the future for those who survive, who had to endure artillery, rockets, shells, mortars from the Russian side. Listen to this. This is a fucking cheek that the Russians have got. The Russian ministry drew attention to the latest portion of extremist statements by some Ukrainian officials. But before I get into that, they have every right to say things as extreme as they like. Russia attacked them. This is how the propaganda works. And this is how weak-minded, stupid people just lap it up. Oh, the Russians say, Ukraine is making some extremist statements. We better go to war against them. But whoa, hold on. We're already going to war against them. How does that work out? All right. The ministry drew attention to the latest portion of extremist statements by some Ukrainian officials, in particular Mikhail Podolyak, an advisor to the head of the Ukrainian presidential office, who, while discussing the situation involving the canonical Ukrainian Orthodox Church, openly stated that today the Kyiv regime has a unique chance to quickly and painlessly, physically mop up a large number of pro-Russian people. So that is misinformation. That is excuse me. Where's my coffee? There it is. That is incitement by the Russians, who are at war in Ukraine, against Ukraine's population, against Ukraine's regime, against Ukraine's infrastructure. They carry on. Such rhetoric and criminal actions by the Kyiv regime confirm the need for continuing the special military operation until the tasks of denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine and the elimination of threats to Russia's security emanating from its territory have been fully accomplished, the Russian Foreign Ministry pointed out. So this is going to be an all-out war. Listen to this. Russia invades Ukraine, calling it a special military operation. So the tasks of the special military operation are, number one, denazification of Ukraine. 2, demilitarization of Ukraine. And 3, the elimination of threats to Russia's security emanating from the territory. Blah, 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 blah. It recalled that Podolyak also promised to punish the residents of Crimea and Donbass for their wish to pin their future on Russia. He is echoed by the mayor of Dnepropetrovsk, renamed to Dnieper, Boris Filatov, who says that Ukraine does not forgive offenses, the Russian foreign ministry added. Doesn't sound good. Sound like Russia's all in. Russia are a bunch of cunts. I don't like the Russian position. Whether they might win the war in the end, simply due to superiority of forces. But I don't like Russia. I don't like its policy. I am going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to compare Putin of Russia to Hitler of Germany when it comes to their aims, when it comes to their goals in the war. Hitler was not going to give up. He was going to go towards the end, even if it killed every single German civilian or soldier in the whole country. If there was not one German left, he was going to pursue that policy. Now, this denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine here, that bothers me. Because since 2014, well, since the 1940s, Nazification and Nazi and everything to do with National Socialism in Germany has been kind of eliminated. Germany has been officially or legislatively denazified. Now, how come did all the Nazis move from Germany to Ukraine, start families, and then bring their children up as Nazis? Is this what's going on? And then the Nazis, the Ukraine government, which is very corrupt, in a Nazi country of Ukraine, they went to the polls and they elected a Jewish leader to lead Ukraine. The Nazis of Ukraine elected a Jewish leader who, in this time of war, time of aggression from Russia, has proven himself to be a standout hero. The unifying force for all of Ukraine, despite the Nazis in Ukraine, despite the corruption in Ukraine, despite all the problems of Ukraine, this little Jewish dude, Zelensky, is holding it all together. He's keeping all the Nazis in check in Ukraine. Now, I'm not saying that the Ukrainians are especially friendly towards the Jews, historically speaking. Ukrainians, you might know this, but the Ukrainians essentially were the Cossacks that the Russians used to perform pogroms on Jewish ghettos, kill Jewish people in Russia and the region. It was the Ukrainians who were the Cossacks who perpetrated the pogroms. So I'm not saying I have any particular, as a Jew myself, I don't have any particular fondness for the history of Ukraine, for even Ukraine today. I do admit that they're anti-Jewish. Canada has a long history of Ukrainians coming to the country, and anti-Jewish sentiment is rife in those communities. In fact, most of the communities that came from Eastern Europe even those that are EU countries today, like Croatia, for example. Croatia is rabidly anti-Jewish. Even the people that come from Croatia to Canada remain rabidly anti-Jewish, and their offspring, the next generation, remains rabidly anti-Jewish. I say this from personal experience. Not naming any names, but personal experience. So this is a problem here in Russia and Ukraine. If Russia is trying to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine, Ukraine is a sovereign country that has every right to defend itself, especially from Russia, or against Russia. And the Russians want the country to be demilitarized. That's not going to happen. The denazification is probably a silly story, propaganda story, but the demilitarization of Ukraine is a serious issue because Ukrainians will never stand. Well, the Ukraine government, or the country of Ukraine, will never stand for that. So there's no end in sight. We are hurtling towards World War III at this point. Anything can happen in between, but we're still hurtling. That was Russia. I don't want to spend too much time on Russia, but you get the point. Okay. Now we are going to go and have a look at news from Kyiv. So let's go to Kyiv. Here is Kyiv. The Kyiv Independent, it's called. The Kyiv Independent, obviously out of Ukraine, Friday, April 21, that is today. Now, just to read the headlines from the Ukraine side. This week in Ukraine, episode 4, Russia's strategy of evil. 80,000 war crimes in Ukraine. 80,000! And I don't think that's just a number that they plucked out of the air. That's from data. Let me have a quick look here, see what I can find that's going to be interesting to challenge. What's this? This looks interesting. Right, as from Kyiv Independent on Friday, April 21, 2023. A Moscow Patriarchate priest handed over to Russia in exchange for 28 Ukrainian POWs. To say this is not a religious war, then, would be an untruth, right? Let's read. Oh, let's listen. What the hell?
SBU head, Moscow Patriarchate priest handed over to Russia in exchange for 28 Ukrainian POWs. A cleric of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Moscow Patriarchate, UOCMP, convicted for collaborationism, was handed over to Russia in exchange for 28 Ukrainian prisoners of war, the security service chief Vasyl Melyuk told Interfax Ukraine. According to Ukrainska Pravda's source in law enforcement, Melyuk meant Andriy Pavlenko, a priest from Lysychansk, who was found guilty of treason and faced 12 years of imprisonment. Pavlenko was transferred to Russia as part of a prisoner swap on December 14, 2022, where he was personally met by Wagner Group founder Yevgeny Prigozhin, the Ukrainian media outlet wrote. In his interview with Interfax Ukraine, Melyuk said that since 2022, Ukrainian law enforcement had opened criminal cases against 61 members of the Russian-controlled church. 7 UOCMP clerics have been convicted of collaborationism and treason, 2 of whom were exchanged for Ukrainian POWs. Ukraine has long accused the Moscow Patriarchate's representatives in Ukraine of serving as the Kremlin's propaganda arm, on the religious front. Since November, the SBU has conducted dozens of raids on Moscow Patriarchate churches, including the 980-year-old Kiev-Pechersk Lavra. Amid searches across Ukraine, the SBU found Russian propaganda, xenophobic literature, as well as Russian passports of the church's leaders and documents with pro-Russian ideological messages. Media, SBU suspects Moscow-backed Orthodox Church Metropolitan of supporting Russia's war. The Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, issued a notice of suspicion against the abbot of Kiev-Pechersk Lavra, Metropolitan Pavlo Lebed, for inciting interreligious hatred and justifying Russia's armed aggression, Ukrainian media outlet Liga.net reported on April 1, citing a source in law enforcement. Kiev Independent. The Kiev Independent News Desk.
Shit, man. Sorry. Thanks, Rosie. Thanks, AI Demon Collective. I've been going on here for quite a while here without being noticed. Fuck, I feel as if I've been talking for like 5 minutes. Well, let's not cry over spilt milk, shall we? Let's go back to the Kiev Independent. All right. We read that. We read that. See, this is the kind of thing I don't understand. All right. Here's a Kuleba and Borrell discuss EU ammunition procurement program for Ukraine. 1 year on, they're still talking about ammunition procurement. From a first day, they should have started a production of ammunition that would guarantee Ukraine's hold onto their Ukraine's hold I forgot what I was saying here because being muted has kind of thrown me off. I'm now angry inside of me. I'm angry at myself for having muted myself during the most prosaic and informative of Sydney Winston summaries of situations. But I'll let it go into the universe, and maybe it'll come back some other time. Sorry, again, Rosie and AI, I'm really sorry about the muting. You basically just missed me ranting about the stupidity of the Russian situation and how denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine is the Russian goal. How short-sighted, how blind do you have to fucking be to realize that if that's the demand you're going to make to denazify and to demilitarize Ukraine, number one, there's no proof, there's no significant or direct evidence that Ukrainians are Nazis today. I wouldn't be surprised if they were, but there's just no proof, because they were before. They've always been, as far as I'm concerned, they've always been Jew haters, Nazis, if you will. But the younger generation today, I'm not so sure. The younger generation of Ukrainians, like 30s and below, maybe 40 and below, I just don't necessarily see it. Rosie, I like what you said there. See if I can bring it up here. If I can find what I'm looking for. If I could only find what I'm looking for. Oh. Here we go. All right, to the chat. Rosie says she wishes she'd not skipped advanced lip reading in school. So do I. And let's see, Rosie, you say surrounding European countries and the UK were too scared to get involved. None of them want to be the one who triggers the Third World War. That's ridiculous, right, Rosie? None of them want to be the Third World War has been triggered by Russia. They've attacked Ukraine. They've said they have no reason, they have no plan to turn back. They have very much a plan to change the regime in Ukraine, basically take over Ukraine to become Russia and demilitarize it. Now, demilitarizing Ukraine with all the ammunition that's being sent, or should be being sent, and will be being sent by the West, by NATO. There has to be a moment where the whole bubble bursts, and it will, except for certain unforeseen potential events. At this moment, it's a two-party war. That's not world. Oh, I don't know, Rosie. I don't know. That's what I think that's what we see from outside, right? But I think that it's a full-on it's a full-on NATO war that's brewing. I think I don't think that Russia attacking Ukraine and committing atrocities and war crimes is necessarily a two-party war. It might seem like that on the outside, like I said, but there's mercenaries in Ukraine. I believe that it has been leaked that there are boots on the ground soldiers from UK, soldiers from the United States, soldiers from EU countries. We have a situation that's coming to a head. It's coming to a head. I don't know how soon, but I am livid at this bozo the clown Joe Biden. What a weak president. The weakest president the United States has ever had. Do you remember when the Roman Empire, which was very powerful and reached its greatest heights in like the year 120 of the Common Era. Greatest heights, you know? You got your you've got a string of really good emperors. And I think it's Marcus Aurelius. I'm not sure, but I think it's Marcus Aurelius, great emperor, who died, and his son, Caracalla, became the emperor. And from that moment on, the empire started to just decline until it faded away. It is my opinion that Joe Biden is Caracalla. He's the Caracalla of the United States. He needs to be taken out. He needs to be removed, replaced, and we need some strength. We need some prestige coming out from the West. The West, the West standing against China and Russia looks very weak. Oh, the United States standing against China and Russia looks very weak, ineffective, which is proven, because if Joe Biden had the presence to be a strong president who doesn't take shit, then Russia wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. It's only due to the weakness of the West, Joe Biden specifically, that this shit is happening. Where is that NATO boots on the ground leaked? I think that was leaked in those documents, those top secret documents that were leaked by that kid last week. There were apparently some signals that there were already boots on the ground. Special forces, boots on the ground. I don't mean, big battalions and tanks and stuff. I just mean special forces. From NATO. Now, the fact that we don't have a lot of news about that is not surprising. I mean, they wouldn't be spreading that around in the public media. Rosie Rose, what do you say? The UK Prime Minister for this weekend. This week's Prime Minister is no powerhouse either. Believe me, it's not only Biden with a spine made of jelly. So, you're telling me that the UK Prime Minister is Rishi Sunak, who has no backbone. He has a backbone, but it's made out of jelly. Hey, Rosie, I think that the Labour leader, what's his name? Keith or Leith? I forget his name. Sir Keith, somebody else. I think he is best positioned to lead the United Kingdom. I've been listening to him as I've been watching his presence in the House of Parliament. I like him. I like him a lot. He seems straightforward, and to me, he exudes integrity. So hopefully, Starmer, is that his name? I can't remember. Hopefully he'll fix the United Kingdom, and hopefully the people will choose him. Regarding NATO boots on the ground, AI, mercenaries from from NATO countries, are in Ukraine. I'm pretty sure. Keir Starmer, thank you, Rosie. I'm pretty sure that he could fix it. Or I'm pretty sure that I mean you got to figure that someone's helping Ukraine other than Ukrainians themselves, because Russia has been pretty much stalemated. And you're talking Russia, you got 400 something million people to choose an army from. Huge army. They did that in the World War II, didn't they? Where Hitler came and pushed them all the way back out of Moscow and took over all of, pretty much Western Russia. But in the background, in the Siberia or wherever behind, wherever the huge mass of Russia exists, they were training up a huge, massive army for the counteroffensive, which did come and was successful by the Russians. They denazified Germany, where there were Nazis fighting them. Now they want to denazify Ukraine, where there's Ukrainians, Orthodox Ukrainians fighting Orthodox Christians, white Orthodox Ukrainians fighting white Orthodox Christians in a religious war where on both sides the religion is the same. It's baffling, absolutely baffling. Okay, should we carry on with this? Let's have a look. What we got going here. See, this is I'm going to listen to this, but it's really, really pathetic. Listen to this. Pathetic.
Kuleba, Borrell discuss EU ammunition procurement program for Ukraine. Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba spoke with EU Chief Diplomat Josep Borrell on April 21, urging him to facilitate the second tranche of €1 billion, $1.12 billion, for joint procurement of ammunition for Ukraine.
That's what I say. A year on, they're still begging the West for ammunition against Russia. Is Biden seriously scared of Putin? Does Biden really think that Putin's going to nuclear bomb the region, the world? Is that what he thinks? He also might think, maybe right, maybe wrong, he also might think that if this escalates into World War III in Europe through the West, he might think that China is going to go and invade Taiwan. I don't know. I just don't see that. I don't see that happening, and I certainly don't see China winning. But that's just my personal perspective, and the only way I can prove myself right or wrong is to wait until China tries to take over Taiwan, and then we'll see the results. Anyway, let's carry on and listen to this.
Kuleba said that he had thanked Borrell for all the EU's defense assistance, including the latest €1 billion for immediate ammo needs, referring to the first part of the bloc's plan to ramp up ammunition supply to Ukraine.
It almost seems to me that the West does not want Ukraine to win this war, because they're not giving them enough ammo and fighting vehicles and stuff. What about the fucking fighter jets? This is the first thing that the United States should have started sending to Ukraine, or started training soldiers a year ago. pilots a year ago, is for fighter jets. Fighter jets win wars. Ukraine has very few fighter jets. Why? Because spinal jelly Joe Biden, for unfathomable reasons to me anyway, will not allow Ukraine to have fighter jets. In order to win the war, boom, fighter jets, F-16s, F-35s, to win the war, kill Russia, take them out, humiliate them. Never mind about their pride, never mind about their braggadocio, just take them out. A regime change in Russia is inevitable. Regime change in Russia today would be a very good idea. So regime change in Russia will either be effected through outside sources, or it will be affected through internal sources, either by those who are sort of close to him and can get near him, or by an unfortunate natural ending to Mr. Putin's life, because he's got under a lot of stress. He's an old man. He's not really all that healthy. He could drop. He could drop any time. But why are they still talking about procuring ammunition for Russia, for Ukraine, is beyond me. It's something that should have been not even an issue. Just do it. Joe Biden, you're a fucking... You're a bozo, Joe Biden. You're a bozo. You got a bozo for a vice president. You got a who else have we got here? You've got bozos for senators in the look at Cory Booker. Why is he still a senator? Look at Feinstein, Dianne Feinstein. She's like 1,000,000 years old, in the Senate, doing the nation's business, and she can't. And instead of the Democrats saying, "Listen, Dianne, you out," and the new person in, instead of doing that, they're saying things like, "Oh well, Dianne, she's been in the Senate a long time. She's very professional, very knowledgeable, la 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 la." All that in the face of Dianne Feinstein not being able to do her job. And I will say this: Joe Biden is doing only a marginally better job than Dianne Feinstein. Back to the chat. What we got going? Where is the chat? Right, back to the chatter. Let's see what we got here. AI says they will always ask for ammunition. It's an ongoing war. They need ammunition all the time. I agree, but it's not only ammunition, AI. It's the tanks. It's the armored vehicles. It's the air defense missiles. It's the fighter jets, because those fighter jets can do a lot of damage, and there's no reason why fighter jets shouldn't cross the Russian border and take out Russian military ammunition and command and control centers on Russian soil. We've got a war going on here. War is not one-sided. If one country is attacked by another country, The country that is attacked has every right to not only defend itself, but to beat and win the war and have a say in the attacking country's future. Russia is finished. Russia as we know it is finished. Let's listen on.
The European Union agreed to provide Ukraine with 1 million artillery shells on March 20th. In the first phase, the bloc should dedicate €1 billion to reimburse countries that can send their stockpiles right away. Another billion will be used for the joint purchase of new rounds, and the final part of the program will be the production of the remaining artillery rounds. After the April 21st phone call with Ukraine's foreign minister, Borrell said that the EU had delivered more than 66% of the first tranche since February 9th. The reimbursing measure applies to existing ammunition stocks of the program's participants, or from the reprioritization of existing orders between February 9th and May 31st, 2023. The urgency is clear. The EU will do its utmost to deliver and deliver fast, the EU foreign policy chief added. However, EU member states still argue about some of the plan's details. One of the main points of contention pertains to the level of restrictions on funding for EU manufacturers, and to what extent countries such as the US and UK should be involved in procurement. The day before, Kuleba tweeted that he was frustrated about the European Union stalling its program on the joint purchase of ammunition for Ukraine.
You see what I mean? What the fuck? They should be going all out, sending as much as they can, and this politics and restrictions. Politics restrictions? Are you fucking kidding me? What restrictions do they need? What restrictions is Russia under? Nothing. This is why I think that the Republican setup that the United States has will collapse. It's 300 years old. 1776 to now is 300 years. Or 400 years. I'm not sure. I'm not good at math. Especially off the top of my head. But I'm really good at math on a calculator. So let me do it. So let's see. Let's go to 1776. Oops, I think I'm getting the wrong way. So just to give you an idea, 1776, July the 4th. Until today, is 246 years, 9 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. So, for the last 246 years, the United States has been pretty much limited to running their country based on morals, ideals, wishes from 1776. 246 years of no forward movement, no improvement. The United States government is working off a 246-year-old document. It's got to be updated, everybody. For example, the Second Amendment. The First Amendment. Right? Was it the First Amendment? Let's call it the First Amendment. Gives you the right to gathering and free speech and blah 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 blah. And maybe it's I don't know. Hold on a second. I don't want to get it wrong. I do not want to get it wrong. Let me go and find out what I'm looking for. This is the Declaration of Independence. I don't know if you can see it. Looks like it's all blurry. Why is it all blurry? It says the Declaration of Independence. Now I'm going to go see. Is it 4? I think it's 4. Number 4. It's not an amendment. It's actually an article. Article 1. Shit. Sorry, just hold on a second. Me and my let me go have a look at the Fourth Amendment here quickly. Let me go look at the First Amendment, because I'm talking about the one with slavery. Amendment 5. Can somebody help me out? Where is in the Declaration of Independence, where does it say that slavery is abolished unless you're a prisoner? I'm going to find it here. Maybe. Hopefully. Ha 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 ha, found it. Amendment 13 of the United States Constitution. There's a section 1, and this is ratified on December the 6th, 1865. Section 1. Amendment 13, Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Which means that slavery is abolished in the United States for free people. But if you are punished for a crime, it doesn't. The abolition of slavery does not include you, because now you are a prisoner. And if you're a prisoner in the United States, according to this Constitution, you are a slave. So don't tell me that slavery in the United States has been abolished or beaten, because everybody's sitting in the United States prison, and I understand there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people sitting in United States prisons, and they are slaves. According to the Constitution, they are slaves. Take it as you wish, but that's what I read. Right, AI. U.S. military documents suggest that 97 Special Forces personnel from NATO countries were active in Ukraine during February and March of this year. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're heading towards World War III, ladies and gentlemen. I hope we don't get there. Like I say, there's plenty of unforeseen circumstances that could prevent World War III. And it's just a matter of time. I hope we all stay alive and healthy while this unfolds, so we can all watch it from the comfort of our homes, from the comfort of our chat rooms, and we can actually talk about stuff like this. This is nonsense. Nonsense. Okay, so what I want to do next is switch over to what I really wanted to come here for. Is for this man here. This guy here. Bill Nye. I'm using Only Sky Media for this article. Only Sky is an online paper, I guess, newspaper, but it's an atheist newspaper. I encourage all of you to subscribe or to at least bookmark it. So, Bill Nye, The Rhythm. I haven't watched this yet, so it's all the same to me. Who's Sasha? Sasha Sagan. Okay, so Sasha Sagan is the reporter here. And Sasha is joined by science communicator Bill Nye and historian of technology David Rooney to discuss a concept that measures, slices, defines, and controls our lives more than any other. I don't want to spoil it. I'm just going to play it. Hopefully it's as interesting as I hope it's going to be to keep us enthralled for the next while. Before I play this, I do want to encourage anyone who wants to join the chat room where I am sitting to talk about what we've covered, what we haven't covered, and just chit-chat about your thoughts. So let's take this away. Bill Nye.
I'm Sasha Sagan, and this is Strange Customs. The creatures are only just beginning to grasp the nature of one of the central elements of their universe. It's so hard for them to process, not just on the largest scales, but even the smallest increments in their own lives. They use the motions of their one moon and their planet around their star to measure it, navigate it, understand it. They weave their beloved myths and stories into the fabric of it. They struggle to reckon with the idea that it only moves in one direction for them. They don't have the knowledge or the technology to bend it to their whim. So they have no choice but to live their lives at a speed and sequence outside their control. So, December 25th, important day, influential person born, and of course we're talking about Isaac Newton, but some controversy about, was it really December 25th?
In 1642, what we now think of as 1642, in Britain it was the 25th of December, but it was the 4th of January in Italy.
Today, my guest is science communicator, engineer, and science guy, Bill Nye.
So are they different days or are they the same days? And so our argument on the raving skeptic side is Newton's mother thought it was Christmas Day, for crying out loud.
Right.
You know how losing track of a week, it could happen.
Yeah.
You could lose track of 9 days very easily. So one way of looking at the winter holidays is to declare that we're going to celebrate Isaac Newton's birthday, Newtonmas,
Yes,
on the 25th of December. And It's fun. So 7 days from the new year, we start Christmas, Isaac Newton's birthday, and we work our way. The whole thing is amazing, but that these guys at the Vatican came up with this system to adjust the calendar that is just amazing. And you've got to respect it. It's huge. So long about the 16th century, everybody was noticing, my dad told me to plant the crops when the sun was on this side of the hill, but it's way past that now. The sun's way over here now. We should be planting, but the calendar says I should wait. And so to adjust the calendar, after this was well enough understood, Pope Gregory XIII was so powerful.
How powerful was he?
So powerful, he declared the 5th of October followed by the 15th of October. He threw away 10 days. And so
Wow.
imagine if you were a landlord, this is great. You owe me that much. If you were a tenant, no, I don't. And so they literally had wars about it. And that's how we ended up with this discrepancy where Isaac Newton's mom thought it was Christmas Day, but everybody or many people on the continent thought it was the 4th of January.
So how much of our calendars are like reflecting the real, rotation and revolution of the earth, and how much of it are these like cultural, social inventions that are so, I was explaining to my daughter the other day why the last few months of the year have these numerical names that don't match up with what month they are, and explaining about Augustus and Julian, and just like how much of, when you think about the way we mark time, how much of it do you think is really a reflection of how time passes, and how much of it is just a method for us to count it so that we, that works for us in each particular place?
Well, it works for us with an extraordinary precision, just setting aside the names of the months. Reckoning the number of days is amazing. It is, I'm amazed. So the Vatican astronomers came up with the following rule, which is just a mazo mode. When was the last leap year?
I think 2020.
Yes, 2020. And the one before that?
2016.
Okay, was the year 2000 a leap year?
It sounds like yes.
Will the year 2100 be a leap year?
I'm not sure. Is this the trick one?
Good question. So these guys figured the following thing out, people. They realized that by adding a leap year every 4 years, which had been going on, I guess, since the 12th century, which is a pretty good innovation, by adding a leap year every 4 years, they were adjusting for the spin of the Earth not quite lining up with the orbit of the Earth around the sun.
Mm.
And we all say 365 days. Some of us might say 365 and a quarter days, but it's really much closer to 365.24 days rather than 0.25 days. It's 100th of a day off. And in modern reckoning, it's about 11 minutes. By adding a leap year every 4 years, you're adding about 11 minutes too much time. Now, it's okay for a while, but after 1,600 years, things were not lining up, and everybody noticed it, this and that. So here's the rule they came up with in 1572, all right? If the century, in order to be a leap year, the century has to be evenly divisible by 400.
Wow.
So the year 1600 was a leap year. The year 1700 was not. 1800 was not. 1900 was not. 2100 will not be. 2000 was. And so wow. So the next adjustment is in something like 3080. Set your clocks.
What's this?
An amazing thing that we all take for granted. You go to the office supply store, or more importantly, in Ithaca, where you were born, you go to the Cornell campus store.
Yes.
And you buy a calendar. And you don't Nobody questions you buy a planner. Nobody questions where the boxes are and the numbers. It is so amazingly well worked out, and how the days of the week are aligned. So there's some human nature thing, and this also really caught on in the Bible. The number 7, an odd number that has a middle day, 3 on each side. And so we said we're going to have 7 days a week, and that's great. It does go into 52 weeks a year, and it does come out pretty close to 365, not quite.
Yeah.
Then this march of the days is all figured out on all the office supply store calendars you're ever going to buy, because these guys figured it out in the 1500s. It's freaking amazing.
It is amazing. And especially because there's been so many different calendars with so many different lengths of weeks and, systems throughout history. And it's amazing that the whole planet, I mean, of course, there are other calendars that are still in use, but there is, no matter what calendar you use, I think you also use this one. And it's kind of amazing that we got everyone on the same schedule. So is there anything, the way we keep time zones, the calendar, do you feel like the system that we use now is the best possible system? Or if you suddenly had total control over this purview, would you change something about the way we keep time?
Yeah, well, the expression I hearken to, another U.S. cultural reference, if I were king of the forest, like the cowardly lion, if I were king of the forest, I believe we would have 13 months instead of 12 of 4 weeks each of 7 days. Let's not go changing everything. And then there is another idea to have a January 0, to have a New Year's Day that would not be reckoned with natural numbers. But I could see having 13 months of 7 weeks, 4 weeks each of 7 days each. I could see doing that. But these are big changes. But it's just interesting to note, and I guess you were explaining to your daughter that Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar were so powerful, they got their own month. And they didn't want months in the fall or the winter, man.
No.
Beautiful summer months. Yeah, give it. Let's Mediterranean Sea summer. Bring it on, man.
It's amazing to feel like so strongly about wanting that, of all things, right? You're emperor, you can have, 1 million stadiums and whole castles named after you, anything you want. And to be like, no, I want a month of the year and I want it to be nice out. It's fascinating. What a reveal about a person. I mean, were they done it wasn't a posthumous thing. It was like on their request. I got to read about this a little more. It was on their request during their lifetimes.
That's my understanding. They had a bunch of what nowadays we might call priests or government officials who also had a religious or spiritual influence, and they were able to make these big changes. But I won't say we're stuck with that, but changing that is a big job, and there's a lot of other things we might do upstream of that.
Yes.
As long as, speaking of King of the Forest desires, as long as we chip away at getting everybody to understand the value of science, the value of astronomy, and how we all rely on it for everything. This is how we're able to have food. We're able to grow crops and feed 8 going on 9.5 billion people, is because of our understanding of astronomy and reckoning the calendar in an internationally common format that we can all embrace. Is really a worthy thing. And while we're here, can I just throw in the idea of the movable feast?
Yeah.
So, and I'm kooky for movable feasts. I love the movable feast. And what it means, this is once again, I'm pretty sure a Catholic Church deal. The holiday doesn't fall on the same calendar date every year. It moves around the calendar. Thanksgiving here in the States or Canada, different days, but our Canadian Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving are movable feasts, as is Easter and so on. But Isaac Newton's birthday, Christmas, is not. It's always on the 25th of December as currently reckoned.
Yes. Well, and I mean, for Jewish holidays and Muslim holidays that are on different calendars, on lunar calendars, also astronomical, it falls, these holidays fall different days of the year. But that's because there's a lunar calendar versus a solar calendar.
The moon's going around the Earth doesn't quite line up with the Earth's spin and orbit around the sun. So everybody, speaking of, we got 2 eclipses coming up. 2 eclipses.
Oh.
Going right through Texas. And in October of this year, and then I'm doing this from April of 2024.
Oh.
It's going to be, they're amazing. And I mention it because the reckoning of the position of the moon in the sky is also a non-subtle, amazing thing that we all take for granted.
Yes. Well, all of this stuff, I mean, the connection between the calendar and astronomy, I mean, that is something that is for sure taken for granted. And I'm curious for you, when you think of an annual event, like when you think of a birthday or a holiday that is not a movable feast, something that is set, do you think of it in terms of, wow, we are in the same position in relation to the sun as we were last year when this happened? I mean, I know everything's moving, the whole solar system's moving, but in terms of where we are in relationship to the sun, do you think, wow, our planet is back in this place that it was? Or how do you think about annual events and how we mark time?
So, Sasha, you and I have known each other for many years.
It's true.
Sasha, do you remember shooting film canister rockets in your kitchen?
Yes, that actually does ring a bell. Yes. Oh my God, that must have been a really long time ago. Yes.
1997. Anyway, have I ever wished you a happy birthday?
I don't think so, Bill. I mean, I'm not upset about it.
But in general, you can interview any one of my friends. Also my brother, for example. I do not send happy birthday wishes. Instead, I send happy orbit of the sun.
Oh my God, of course you do, Bill. That's so perfect.
Happy orbital anniversary is another science guy turn of phrase. Because you are in the same place in space as the day, in this case, that you were born, as the Earth day on which you were born. And that is really a worthy and remarkable thing to ponder. Yes, the Earth is precessing. Yes, the wobble of the orbit, yes, there's some extra knock-on and very significant effect.
I would never, ever classify science as boring. So what I'm going to classify here in this particular situation, or what I'm going to state in this particular situation, is that this particular scientist is boring. He's boring right now. I'm sure he has moments where he shines with scientific insight and wonderment. This is not one of those times, and so I kind of misjudged in bringing you this. What we can do is we can explore Only Sky, the publication. How would you like to do that? So Only Sky and American Atheists are one and the same. Just so you know, and just so you can be comfortable when you do bookmark, or even better, if you have the means to actually support the channel. Okay, so it looks like yesterday Only Sky and American Atheists partnered up. That's very cool. Well, let's explore let's explore the atheist website that is Only Sky. Well, there's nothing there that I'm going to find for news. Let's see. So there's lots of audio content, which is really cool, especially if you're an audio listener, a podcast listener. I am. But let's go through here and see if there's anything that catches your eye. Give me a shout or give me a text. Crime and punishment. Oh, I see. Religion. Thank you. They have a religion section. When Christians confuse an explanation with an argument. Want to go there? Well, let me go down and just see the headlines. So I like this one. When Christians confuse an explanation with an argument, I think that's gonna have an effect. It's gonna make some sense. Faith, a gateway drug to real world tragedy. All right. Hell is more important than heaven. Yeah. You kind of get that feeling with Christians, right? It's either hell, or repent, or accept Jesus, or something sort of superficial. Accepting Jesus is not. It means nothing. Nothing. All my life, I've accepted Superman, like literally, because this guy has like the power of a god. If he can stop a speeding bullet to save a man, if he can fly across space, an area of space quick enough to stop a bullet that's been shot at the head of his friend or an innocent person, which I did remember reading in one Superman comic, then why wouldn't you want to aspire to be Superman rather than Jesus? But that's just me tangentializing. Excuse me for that. Supreme Court picks religious case, passes on solitary confinement. Oh, so they, all right. They seem to be so far pretty credible with their headlines, eh? Canaan, excuse me. Canaan begat Israel. What the Bible gets wrong about Hebrew origins. All right, Rosie. Let me bring you in here, Rosie. Rosie Rose says she really enjoyed the stream and she's got to go, unfortunately. I should catch the rest on replay. Thank you, Rosie. You're always here. It's great. This stream, Rosie, would not be the same without you. Or my enjoyment of the stream would not be the same without you. So please come back. So you're in Scotland, right? So it's what, something like 8 o'clock at night. In 8 o'clock, yeah. 8 o'clock. You know what that means? The Southampton Arsenal game is going to be starting soon. I'm an Arsenal supporter. I'm now going to come out as I have been an Arsenal supporter since 1971. I was an Arsenal supporter in 1972 when I played under 16. I played in this under 16 league. It was called Greenpoint Football Club. I think it's still around. Greenpoint Football Club. It's situated. Wow, in it was all sort of. There were rugby fields and soccer fields, and it was all where the clubs, the city's clubs played, because it was that huge, big area, like a commons area. You see it now on photographs of Cape Town, the big stadium where the Cape Town World Cup games were played, the huge stadium. Well, on that commons ground is where we played. This is where my club, the club at Greenpoint is. I think it still is if you look it up. Totally irrelevant, of course, but sorry. Where was I now? See, the tangential is strong with me today. What's in my coffee? Oh, no, I'm always like that. Sorry, forgot about that. Okay, Canaan begat Israel, what the Bible gets wrong about Hebrew origins. Let me know if there's one that you particularly want to focus on. Israel and the West, the global fight to outgrow national strife. The theological error behind post-liberalism's bid for political power. That sounds complex. And that's politics, and it's political. I'm not sure I want to really do politics too much. I don't mind doing politics that's happening now. 2024 is starting to heat up, the presidential race in the United States. No matter where you live, this is an eye-catching event for a while. Israel and the West, Netanyahu and Israeli, Easter potpourri, a look at the crucifixion, resurrection, Israel and the West, Western complicity in Middle Eastern trauma. And that doesn't interest me. What still interests me is this first one here. When Christians confuse an explanation with an argument. It's a 5-minute read if you can't stand me reading stuff. Well, if you can't stand me reading stuff, you probably have disappeared by now. Oh, wow, it's very short. Oh, no, it's not. It carries on here. It carries on. All right. It's not that short, but it's long enough for me to have to refresh my cup. I like coffee, and I need to get some like orange juice to drink. When you talk a lot and you're drinking coffee, it kind of dehydrates. It feels. But when you got some nice cold mixture of extra pulp, orange juice, and water, now that quenches a thirst. So I'm going to declare a break right now. And music shall be your accompaniment. Okay. Sorry about the length of the break, but um, I'm sure that, or at least I hope I haven't, you know, caused somebody to be late for anything, any event or anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I am going to read this one article, and then I'm going to open up the chat room for Q&A. So if there's anybody watching, there's one person watching right now, but that's okay. It'll be Q&A. I'll get into that after we read. I want to read this so bad, but I don't feel that there's anyone really going to be reading it with me. So I should open up the Q&A now. No, I shouldn't. That doesn't make sense, does it? I should read this first. If there's anyone, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get through this article, and if there's anyone, if there are enough people watching live by the time I finish it, then I'll open up the Q. Well, I'll open up the Q&A afterwards, no matter what. Okay. So let me have my little drink. Oh, that is so good. That's cold. It's so cold. It's straight out of a cold fridge. Cold orange juice with cold water in a cold glass out of a cold fridge is cold. Right. When Christians confuse an explanation with an argument by Bob Seidensticker. The article is 3 days old, April the 18th of 2023. Overview. Explanations and arguments, we come across both, but they're quite different. An explanation is, here's how I see it, and an argument is, here's how you should see it. Don't confuse one for the other. This should take a time. The reading time in this is 5 minutes. Should we start a timer? No, because I don't want to embarrass myself. This is the internet, you know. So, what's his name? Bob Sidesticker writes. Years ago, I came upon a fascinating psychological experiment. Like the best of these, it was very simple. It's called the copy machine study. In 1977, when giant copy machines were shared office equipment, psychologist Ellen Langer had her research assistants try to cut into the line of people waiting to make copies. They tried 3 ways. The first approach was to say, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages, may I use the Xerox machine?" It was polite but minimal, and it worked 60% of the time. Next, they added a reason. "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I'm in a rush?" This worked 94% of the time. But the final approach was a surprise. They asked, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I have to make copies?" It worked 93% of the time. It had the form of the second one with the because clause, but there's no real reason there. Okay. Langer concluded that the form of the request was the trick. And having a because clause is important. It satisfies the subconscious need for a reason, regardless of whether there's a good reason in there or not. We find something like this empty because, I'll start again. We find something like this empty because clause in many Christian arguments. Yeah, let's get to the meat of it. Let's see, I want to say hi to my very good friend who I've known for, I don't know, the best part of 20 seconds. His name, or her name, or their name is Christ Brings a Sword. He says, praise the Lord or eat the bugs. Then he says, science cannot... I'm sorry. Science cannot exist without billions of dollars. That is so funny. Science cannot exist without billions of dollars. Okay, but listen, praise the Lord. Or eat the bugs. Oh yeah. Okay, so this is what your proposal to me is praise the Lord or eat the bugs. Well, what do you mean by eat the bugs? Is that a euphemism for something? I don't get it. I don't get I don't get the dichotomy. It's like two choices. You either pray the Lord, you either praise the Lord or you eat the bugs. Does that mean that if I am not praising the Lord, and I've never praised the Lord, does that mean that I'm eating bugs right now? Like I've always eaten bugs because I've never praised the Lord? What exactly are you trying to say, Mr. Christ? What? Okay, there's a... What do you say? There is a division coming. You can either praise the Lord. Okay. You know, there's one thing, there's nothing I like more than silly Christian humor. Because there's no way. Just give me a minute here. I'm gonna do something. I got to do something that I hadn't planned to do. Hang on me a second here. Oops. Just give me one. All right. We have a little bit of some comedy going on here. I love Christian. You know I like Christians? Because they bring excellent comedy. In fact, I think Christians are the greatest performance artists on the planet. We know that they cannot possibly believe that this Jesus Christ myth is a real thing, because it's a myth, and their primal thinking, maybe not primal, but they're more evolved part of their head, the frontal cortex, which gives them the I think, don't quote me, but something in there gives you the ability to do logic and to figure out, you know, if it doesn't make sense, that if it doesn't make sense, then you got to dig deeper to try and figure it out, or it just doesn't, or it's not true. In the case of Christianity, Jesus being a myth is is the fact, but the Christians project Jesus as being some kind of a real thing. We can talk about, in fact, Mr. Sword, if you want to come in, let's have a chat. You can come and talk about it. So let me just see what you say. You say science cannot exist without billions of dollars. Okay, well, where's your backup for that? This doesn't make sense to me. When Galileo when Copernicus realized that the Earth was not the center of the universe, that was science. There was no billions of dollars. Dollars didn't exist, for fuck's sake. That's fine. Okay. Okay. Here's a list of your claims that I'm going to read out, and right. The first claim is science cannot exist without billions of dollars. Then you say there is a division coming. You don't provide any source for or explanation for what a division is, even. You can either praise the Lord or you can eat the bugs. You've said that twice. And you haven't explained the whole eating the bug thing. Then you claim that Jesus is coming to rapture the faithful and destroy those left behind. Again, a specious claim that you need to, that I do not find convincing at all. And your last one here is science is mind control for the weak-minded. Okay, that sounds to me, sir, like a bit of projection on your part. So if you'd like to have a discussion, join in. Google Meet. Join with Google Meet and use the code CTFRCIOKEW. In fact, anybody can do that. Join with Google Meet and use code CTFRCIOKEW, which in fact is on the screen. So come on in. I'm going to wait for you. Give you a couple of seconds to join in. And if you do join in, we're going to carry on reading the Only Sky article. Mr. Sword, with his big, huge claims, but again, it's all performance art. It's more a case of look at me, as they make these ridiculous statements. How can you not look at him, right? That's they want attention. So anybody who's called Christ brings a sword and says that and demands that we praise the Lord or eat the bugs without explaining the eating the bugs thing, because I want to know. Well, go get your son's headphones. Come on. I have headphones in. Don't be shy. It's not a fashion statement, unless you want it to be. We'll give him a few more moments. See if he joins. It'll be cool, huh? Mm-hmm. Oh, it was there. Well, Mr. Sword, let's Let's just have some background music. Welcome.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you're just fine.
All right. Good. Here I am.
All right. Yes, let me just set up the.
Untangling these headphones.
Yeah. I'm not quite ready with my screen, my scene set up yet.
I don't have mine set up. Go ahead.
Hold on. Are you coming on camera, or are you just gonna stick around like that?
No, I don't have my camera set up.
Yeah, I see. You don't have a camera plugged in.
Well, I just don't my machine for these types of purposes, so I'm not prepared for you.
Oh, this is nothing really to be prepared for. It's just essentially it's an informal discussion about ideas and
Right on.
I
I just want to get the technical issues out of the way first, so we're good to go.
yeah, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
There we go.
I hear some feedback though. Is that you or me? Or not feedback?
Oh,
but,
hold on. How's that? Is it gone?
I still hear the repeat. It's all right.
You know what it is? You're watching YouTube's mute the YouTube channel.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me pause that. You're right. You're a technical genius. Go ahead. We're good.
All right. So, how do you want to be called, addressed?
You can call me Seabass or Mark or Christ Brings a Sword, whatever you want to call me.
I'll call you Mark because
that's my name.
That's your name.
But it does translate to Christ Brings a Sword in gematria. That's why I use it.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'll still call you Mark. How's that?
You can call me Mark. That's fine.
All right. So you seem pretty adamant that Jesus actually is a thing.
Well, not only is it a thing, but prophecy says that he's coming, and I see signs everywhere that it's coming soon. So you need to kind of step up the effort and get the word out.
No. What you need to do is, if he's coming soon, how soon? Because I'm just going to wait with you. Because I think it's all nonsense. So, but I'm prepared to, play your game and wait it out. If you say soon, obviously it's within the next, before the first quarter of our century is over, right?
Well, it's just my opinion versus yours, and you're welcome to your opinion. You don't have to.
It's not opinion. It's not opinion.
Oh, it's my opinion and your opinion, right? I mean,
no. I don't have opinion. Jesus is a myth. Is not necessarily. It's not an opinion. It's a fact.
How can you say that Jesus is not a fact? Do you have the bones of Jesus to prove to me that he never resurrected?
No. Jesus never existed. It's just a myth.
Well, he was never born.
Jesus is a myth.
All right.
So, and in fact, if I want to go back further, Yahweh is a myth.
Okay.
So Jesus doesn't even feature yet, because to me, it is absolutely impossible to imagine the possibility of this just supernatural creator, let's say. It's just it smacks of mythology, and there is no empiricism behind it other than philosophy, which is no proof at all.
So, do you think you know everything?
That's not a relevant question.
Yeah, it is a relevant question. It's just a simple question.
No, because
you know everything. Yes or no?
You know that everyone.
That's too difficult of a question for you.
You know that nobody knows everything. So
okay, why don't you just answer it then?
Because it's a brute fact. It's a common sense.
You just can't answer it. That's the problem. You don't want to admit you're ignorant.
Well, what you're doing is now you are using a personal attack because you can't defend your
Well,
mythology.
you have so much pride that you're not able to admit that you don't know something.
I don't know what.
You don't know everything. You won't even admit that.
Well, if I don't know everything, and
You
you
have so
don't
much
know
pride. You won't even
everything,
admit that you don't
and
know any.
if you
if
don't know
if
everything,
you
and
know
I
everything.
don't know listen. The whole purpose of this is to have a conversation, one at a time. You go ahead, and I'll let you go first.
Well, I just said it. You think you know everything, but you won't admit it. You won't. You think you know everything, but you don't. You think that you know everything, and that's a lie. If you don't know everything, then you would admit it, but you won't admit it. Do you know everything? Yes or no?
I don't know everything. No.
Okay, good. That's a good start. So you don't know everything. So how can you know that there's no such thing as God?
Because I know that the natural world, the cosmos, the eternal energy, the brute fact that energy is eternal, that pretty much discounts any need for a creator,
Well, where does
because
energy
existence
come
is
from?
something that has always been without a it's eternally never been a there's never been a moment in cosmic history where energy has not been present.
So
So
do
that is a
you
brute
believe?
fact
Hold
to
on.
me. Hold on, hold
You
on.
believe?
One
You've been
moment,
talking a lot. But go
one
ahead.
quick moment. And so to me, energy is a brute fact.
Okay. So have you ever taken thermodynamics or a course in physics on thermodynamics? Because I have. I know all about thermodynamics. Let's talk about thermodynamics.
Tell
That's
me,
energy.
what school did you take your course at?
I went to El Camino College and I went to Cal State Long Beach.
And did you major in
I majored
thermodynamics?
I majored in mechanical engineering, but I changed my major to computer science.
Okay,
But
so
I took courses in
what's
thermodynamics.
thermodynamics got to do with
Well, in
the
thermodynamics is
myth
science.
of Yahweh?
Well, thermodynamics is science, which says that matter can neither be created nor destroyed.
Exactly, I said that to you. I
Right?
said
It cannot be created nor destroyed.
energy is eternal.
Right.
Done.
So, but also it says
No,
that
no, 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 no,
it
no, no. Stop, stop,
well, you're
stop.
not. Oh, you're gonna interrupt me. Okay, go ahead,
That's
interrupt me. I can interrupt you if you can
thermodynamics
interrupt me. If
That's
you
the
can interrupt
first.
me, I can interrupt you, Ash.
Okay, but the first rule of
You're
thermodynamics.
not
Let's
letting
talk
me
about
talk.
that. Let's talk about the
You're not
first
letting me
rule.
talk.
Let's talk about the first law.
There's two rules, first and second. Okay,
There's
go
three
ahead.
laws. There's three laws, so let's take
Yeah,
them one by one.
let's do
Okay?
them.
Okay. So the first one says energy cannot be created nor destroyed.
That's
Now,
right.
we do know that energy exists. So therefore, the energy that exists has to be eternal because it cannot be created or destroyed.
That's right. You
And
cannot
this
create
is
it.
reality. This is
By the way,
reality,
hold
right?
on. When I say it cannot be created or destroyed, I mean man cannot create or destroy it. Man cannot create.
I thought you were okay. So this is
From
Marx.
man's perspective,
This is
you are
Marx's
unable
theory of
to create or
thermodynamics.
destroy.
This
That's
is
the point.
Marx's theory of thermodynamics, not the theory, or
You
not the
cannot.
rule of first
You
law of
cannot
thermodynamics.
create nor
Marx's first
destroy
law,
energy.
right?
Okay?
But we know that energy exists, which is there because it cannot be created or
But it got
destroyed.
there
It is
somewhere.
there.
It got there somehow.
It's a brute fact.
It got there somehow, right?
No,
Does it exist?
it's always been there.
How can it always be there? That violates
Because
the
it's
laws
eternal.
of thermodynamics.
It's
See, what is
eternal.
the second law? What is the second law of thermodynamics?
We haven't got through the first law, Mark.
Oh, well,
Let's just
okay.
slow down.
You know
slow down.
what? You can't finish the conversation without discussing all three.
Right, we can discuss all
Well,
three,
you
but
want to
let's go slowly, point by
Oh,
point,
this is
so
too
that
boring. I'm not going to stay here much longer. So you get your point across quickly.
okay.
Don't dilly-dally with these illogical arguments.
Why are you being
You
so?
You cannot tell me how matter came into existence.
Matter didn't come
You
into
cannot
existence.
tell me how it came into existence.
It didn't come into existence.
So the Big Bang is not true.
Eternal.
Is that
It's
right?
eternal.
Now the Big Bang is not true. Well, hold on. Is the Big Bang a myth?
The Big Bang?
Yeah, is the Big Bang a myth? Because your science tells me there was a Big Bang. Now
Yeah,
you're telling me there was no
there's
Big Bang.
there's
Who am I supposed to
certainly a
believe?
lot
You or science?
misunderstood about the Big Bang, but we're not going
Am
to
I
start
supposed to
about.
believe you or science? Who am I supposed to believe? Because science tells me there was a Big Bang,
You know
and you're
what?
telling me that there was never a Big Bang.
I never
So
said it was
who am
never
I
a
supposed
Big
to listen
Bang.
to? Oh, so there was a Big Bang, but
I
then you said that
said
energy always
I
existed.
said there are many
Not making
interpretations
much
of the.
sense, man.
I said there are
You're not
many.
making much sense. I'm going to keep interrupting you because that's what you do to me. You're not making
I
much sense.
apologize for interrupting you.
Okay, good.
Um, okay, so let's just so we're on the same page. Energy is eternal. It can never be created nor destroyed. So
what's the Big Bang
energy.
all about?
Hold on.
What's the Big
Let me
Bang?
finish. Let me
What's the Big
finish.
Bang if it was never created?
You
What's
have
that
to.
all about?
You have to let me finish because
I want to hear it because I never
we're being
learned this in
polite to
school.
each other. Okay.
I never learned this in school. Go ahead.
So energy exists. It cannot be created. It cannot be destroyed. It is.
That's right.
That's the first law of dynamics. It
That's
is.
right.
It's a brute fact. There
There it
is no getting away from it.
But you're not done yet, are you?
Why
There's
are
a
you
second
interrupting
law.
me?
There's a second law.
Why are you not letting me finish making my point?
Because you're going too slow.
Well, that's the whole idea. Slow down so we can absorb
Move
and
on,
process.
man. Get to the second one and say it.
I haven't finished with the first one yet.
Oh God.
I just, like I said, I want to make
Never
sure.
mind. We're
I
done.
want to make sure that
We're done.
we're on
I'm
the
done.
same
I'm done.
page. Okay, so yeah, he rage quit. Christ brings the sword, rage quit. I got it. Rage quit. He can't stand up to the. He can't stand up. Oh, shit. Hold on. He can't stand up to the. Brute facts that are put before him. Pretty silly thing. Anyway, so what happened there was I proposed that Jesus is a myth and Yahweh is a myth, and he wanted to go to the laws of thermodynamics for some reason. So we went to the law of thermodynamics. We went to the first law of thermodynamics. He's the one who mentioned it, Mark. Mark, you mentioned the first law of thermodynamics. You even stated what the first law of thermodynamics is, which is that energy cannot be created and cannot be destroyed. Which you can infer that from that you can infer that energy which cannot be destroyed or cannot be created necessarily has to be eternal. It's simple. It just necessarily has to be eternal. A brute fact that we have to accept and just get over it. Okay? Energy. Eternal. That's it. And once you understand that, all the supernatural mumbo jumbo doesn't make sense anymore, does it? Nothing about religion, about scripture, about rapture, about immaculate conception, about or the virgin birth, or the resurrection, or Abraham trying to kill his son, and the hand of God stops him, or Moses taking the non-existent Jews out of Egypt that there were slaves in Egypt, non-existent slaves in Egypt, out of Egypt. He parts the Red Sea so that all the Hebrews could cross to the other side, and then the sea closes on the Egyptians that were chasing them. Millions of them. Then, 40 years later, they managed to cover an area which a traveler would do in 2 weeks. 40 years. This is what we got to believe. Moses is a myth. Jesus is a myth. Allah is a myth. Yahweh is a myth. So there you have it. Now I have lost my... No, I haven't. Fuck it. I'm going to just go back to what we were doing before, okay? Let's see. Well, it looks like there are only 2 viewers watching. But you know what? I'm going to get through this this article thing. Okay, see if we can catch up. All right. Where are we here? All right, we left off here where we find something. Okay, let's go up a bit. Ah, yes. The copy machine study. The 3 questions. Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine? Worked 60% of the time. Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I'm in a rush? Worked 94% of the time. Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I have to make copies? Worked 93% of the time. Okay. So it's explanation versus argument. There's a difference between 1, explaining how you see things or how your worldview fits together, and 2, making an argument with evidence to convince me to adopt your worldview. You see, Mark, this is exactly what you were trying to do. You know, mate, I think you should stick to texting, Mark, because you're not very good in the rooms, unfortunately. I had wished you would be more calm, more relaxed, less stressed, less anxious. Maybe you just got stage fright. I don't know. But it was a very poor performance, Mark. You're welcome to come back. You know, practice always helps, and you just get better. I'm so sorry. It was the ape in me that did that, it wasn't me. All right, so said another way, the 2 options are explaining how you see it, explanation, versus how I should see it, argument. Apologists sometimes focus on 1, how you see it, and forget that the words coming out of their mouths are backed by 0 evidence. You hear that, Mark? This is for you. I'm glad I continued. The Strange Notions blog has an example of a Christian explanation. Okay. Atheist objection. God is supposed to be all good, but he both permits evil to exist and even causes it through punishments. So God must not be all good. Catholic reply, God is so good and so perfect that he permits evil to exist and brings greater good out of it? This reply is Catholic dogma. It's how Catholics are supposed to think about the problem, and as an atheist, it may be helpful for me to understand. But use it as an argument and questions surge forward. How do we know God is good? Why should we think that all the evil in the world is there for a greater good? Why is this the best a perfect God can do? How do we even know he exists? And so on. As, quote, here is how I see things, unquote, it does the job. As an explanation that resolves reasonable questions, it fails. You listening, Mark? Should be, because this is you can penetrate this. You can debunk this. Quote, God did it, unquote, is the premier example of an explanation rather than an argument. It explains part of someone's worldview, but it's no convincing argument. I agree. The best explanations are prefaced with something like, quote, okay, here's how it makes sense to me, unquote. For example, quote, here's how it makes sense to me. There is evil in the world, but God permits it and uses it to create a greater good, unquote. Or, quote, here's how it makes sense to me. God did it, unquote. The Christian is making clear that this isn't intended as a convincing argument. An explanation has its place, and it may help you understand how something makes sense in a Christian's mind, but it can be dismissed without consideration if it's given instead of an argument. Example 2, the Trinity. Another example is the Trinity. The Athanasian Creed explains the incompatible properties that the Trinity must have. That creed is an explanation, not an argument. Imagine trying to explain to a Muslim who shares the same God of the Old Testament that the Trinity is not polytheism. You hear that, Christians? You should be starting to blush a little bit. And example 3, consciousness. Apologist Sean McDowell insists that human consciousness must be explained. An honest atheist or naturalist would say at least minimally they don't know the mechanism of how consciousness or mind can emerge from matter. But this actually isn't a problem for a Christian or a theistic worldview because God, who is a mind, exists before matter. We're made body and soul, mind and matter. So it makes sense if God is spirit, that we should be beings with spirit. Bullshit. When I was talking to Mark, I pointed out, and we happen to agree on the first law of thermodynamics, that energy is eternal, cannot be created, cannot be destroyed, has always been eternal. Now this guy here, Sean McDowell, is saying that God, who is a mind, exists before matter, which is impossible. Why? Because eternal existence is a brute fact. Nothing precedes eternal existence. If you state that a God exists before eternal energy, eternal existence, you gotta find a logical way to put that across. To say that God, who is a mind, exists before matter is pretty meaningless. It's specious. There's absolutely no merit, no claim, no support, no logic, nothing to convince anybody about that is a fact. it's actually kind of weird to me that this type of argument exists. It's not supposed to exist, but is supported by so many people, especially in North America, especially in the United States, who must know that there's nothing before matter. So to talk about a God who exists before matter is mythology. So what they say that God is a mind. God existed before matter. Humans are body and soul. I need to make copies. That's funny. Explanations are not arguments. Okay, example 4. Providing evidence. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. At the, quote, "there's no hate like atheist love," unquote, Facebook page is a meme that reads, "Science is the study of God's creation. Therefore, if it doesn't acknowledge his handiwork in all things, it's not science, it's pseudoscience," unquote. In the comments beneath was this abbreviated exchange between Carl, who created the meme, and Alec. Alec. Nice claim. Where is the evidence? Carl. This is an axiom of science. Alec. You claim there is a God and it is the work of said God. So where is the evidence? Carl. Everywhere. In an open exchange in response to Alec's request for evidence, Carl would have said, "Hold on, let me be clear. I'm not claiming to make an argument. I'm just explaining how it fits together in my mind. I'm making no demands on you." In other words, he'd clarify that he was giving an explanation only, not an argument. And of course, if Carl didn't feel this way but was presenting the meme as an argument, then it can be dismissed without consideration. Example 5, illusionist. This example comes from Barry Goldberg's Common Sense Atheism blog. Suppose you see a stage magic show with some friends. Everyone loves it. Afterwards, you mention your favorite trick and say that it seemed completely impossible. One of your friends says that he is something of an amateur illusionist himself and can explain the trick, and everyone leans in. He says, "The magician used real magic. He cast a spell." Is this satisfactory? Of course not. Again, it's an explanation where an argument is expected. To be an argument, it would need to resolve the questions it provokes. Is all stage magic real magic? How did the illusionist get magical powers? How does spell casting work from the standpoint of physics? And so on. It's like, God did it, a claim that generates more questions than it resolves. How did God do it? What laws of physics, both known and unknown, were used or violated? Another example is the Shroud of Turin. Hey, Artangelo, are you watching? This is for you. Another example is the Shroud of Turin, the claimed burial cloth that holds a faint image of Jesus as he was supernaturally zapped back to life. God did it, of course, but the same questions are unanswered. You got it, Artangelo? Are you waking up, Artangelo? Conclusion. We see Christianity's explanation over argument problem everywhere. Jesus needed to die for humanity's sins. Why? How does this make sense to someone outside your worldview? And I've been saying that for fucking decades. Only with faith can you please God. Why? Every human is tainted by Adam's sin. Why? Next time you read a Christian apologetic, be careful to separate it into explanation and argument. Discard any explanation pretending to be an argument and see if any substance remains. God did it isn't an argument. It's just an explanation. You might as well say, I need to make copies. And he goes on. I apologize for the lack of articles last week. I was vacationing in sunny Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and in the last minute rush, didn't have time to fill the queue. I'm now back where I belong, in windy, rainy Seattle, dreaming of summer. Here's a quote from Josh Watson on Twitter. Many Christians believe in a God greater than which none can be conceived, but also in a gospel greater than which it's totally easy to conceive. Bingo, Josh Watson. Well done. All right, so I think I'm going to stop the reading portion. Yeah, I think we're done with reading. But we can still do Q&A. Right? Let me prepare for Q&A. Dun, dun, dun. Q&A! I am ready for you. All right. How do you join the Q&A? Well, you join with Google Meet. You use the code CTFRCIOKEW, the same one that is posted in the chat above. And I'll just fade this guy in, put on some music, because it looks like we are going to be fading away. Well, at least you get to see that Christianity is kind of totally messed up, right? It's starting to lose its luster because of the fact that it's so full of holes. Once we, and I mean rational people of this world, can get over through into the minds of the theists that their position is impossible, that energy or matter exists eternally. So that's an axiom, a brute fact, an axiom. If, or should I say when, energy exists eternally, that is the axiom. There is no pre-axiom. That doesn't make sense. An axiom is axiomatically the wall. It's I like to call it the brute fact. Yeah, it's a brute fact whether you like it or not. So, energy is eternal. Anybody and everybody who believes in this God, in this supernatural creator, is fooling themselves is fooling everybody, embarrassing themselves by stating that God came before matter. It's just, it's an explanation and not an argument. An explanation that has no that has no backup, that has nothing in the way of proof, of evidence, of it even existing. Nothing. Once the Christians and the Muslims realize this, I think the whole planet will just collectively just take a sigh of relief, breathe a sigh of relief. Can you imagine the whole planet, a population of 8 billion, realizing through listening to the explanations that are given to them by rational thinkers, and process them and don't discount them. Look at them. Look at it's really the most simple thing. Energy is eternal. Brute fact axiom. To come up with a story that a story that inserts some kind of existence prior to existence, that is mythology. That is why Jesus is a myth, and Allah is a myth, and Yahweh is a myth, and Moses is a myth, and so on, and so on, and so on. But once a creator can be discounted as being impossible, silly, absurd, ludicrous, then all you've got is your own. If you incline that way, all you've got left is a God of your own making in your own head, which you choose to follow, or you choose to follow and break rules or whatever. Look at well, I don't want to go into religion. Forget it. I don't want to go. But it's really simple. The easiest way to debunk all of creationism is to enlighten the world, the people of this world, to the brute fact of the eternal nature of energy. That, again, a brute fact has to be accepted. Don't like it? Too bad. It's a brute fact. So, I'm going to say that I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to stick to that argument. The first law of thermodynamics disproves God. There you go. There you go, Mark. There you go, Christians. There you go, Muslims. There you go, Mormons. The first law of thermodynamics disproves and dismisses the God concept, the God idea. And I think I'm going to end it there. Q&A will be something that I will feature on a much more regular basis. This this format that we watch today. I'll try and refine it a little bit, but I think that's what it's going to be. The idea would be to start off with a Q&A for a room full of people, but I'll work towards that. So for now, I'm just going to say thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.